lovies, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be doing my first year reflection on being in Zimbabwe. So I have some notes here. I wrote down some notes because I can forget. So yeah, so without further ado, let's get right into the video. To be honest, the reason why I came back to Zim, it really wasn't by choice. So before we get into further details, I was in China before I came back to Zim, and I was living there for 10 years. I did my high school there, and I did my bachelor degree there. So from the time that I started my internship, which was in 2017, until the time I graduated, I was looking for a job, right? And the good job that you can get in China as a foreigner is actually a teaching job. So this is a controversial topic, whatever, I don't know, but hey, I'm just gonna say it. In China, it's hard to get a job as an African. First preference of choice in teachers would be Americans or British or Australians, anyone else rather who's other than African. And if it does come to Africa, the first people that they would take are South Africans, and to take a black South African will be rare. But yeah, that's just how things are set up in China. So in order for me to have gotten a job in my field would have been absolutely difficult. So again, the first job that you could get if you really wanted to stay in China is a teaching job. Towards the end of my stay in China, meaning after graduation, they give you a period of 2 months, especially in Wuhan, after you've graduated, for you to find a job. So I think in the last 2 weeks that I was there in China, I did get a job offer for a teaching job, but the problem was the time frame that I had and the paperwork that needed to be done was just impossible. And plus I had to fly back home and sort out my visa and then fly back in China, which was absolutely costly. So yeah, basically that's the reason why I came back. That was long. I've really never lived in Zim, so this is kind of a big deal, this first year reflection that I'm doing. So I got back in August 2018 and I started looking for a job, but it's so hard to get a job in Zim, not even to get a job, to find a job in Zim, because there are literally no jobs. And even if someone wants to employ you, they might not even have the money to pay you. Does that make sense? So maybe you'd be doing something like an internship or etc. And you can to while up time and gain more experience, but at the same time, you do want to be making money, especially when you are living in Zim, because things are tough. And yeah, it's just a whole different situation, which I'll get into later. But from, I think it was October up until December 2018, I was working for my brother, from not just my brother, but my brother and his wife, for their company called Tammy, and I was doing marketing for them. And then in February this year, 2019, I got a job at a company called Traxxas. Let's get into the tea. Basically, I've been honestly finding it hard to adjust and cope living in this country. It is not easy. But one thing I definitely learned is in order for you to cope and in order for you to move on is to actually accept the situation and realize what kind of country you're living in, what the situation is in the country, and how you can maneuver yourself around that. That's one thing that I've definitely learned. I've honestly noticed that the standard of living it's so much harder to cope compared to other countries, and it's so different because, for example, the amount you're getting paid compared to how much things are costing is just a huge gap. It's just ridiculous. um, there's just absolutely no stability in anything at all, when it comes to even prices, electricity. And when I mean prices, every month or every other week, prices are changing. And it's no joke because let's say you get paid and you've budgeted, let's say 500 for the month. You can't now base, you can't now live off that 500 because tomorrow that 500 will mean nothing. And that's how basically people are surviving in Zimbabwe. With electricity, for example, they switch off electricity. And if you don't have things like solar, if you don't have any other alternatives, you are basically dead. Because, for example, they can switch off electricity at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then the electricity will come back at, like, maybe let's say 10 in the evening, or even 11 in the evening. And to cook, you gotta stay up later and sleep a few hours. Everything is just hectic when it comes to electricity and even water. I only thank God, like I thank God that there's a borehole at home. But other than that, city council water is I feel like it's a hazard zone. No chemicals to treat the water or whatever. And I think that's just, it's sad for those that can't afford to get clean water, and which means that they don't care. Yeah, I think those are like the major that I can think of on top of my head and what I wrote on my notes. Those are the major things that I'm finding hard to adjust with and cope with. And even when it comes to the social settings in Zim, everything is so different from what I was used to, which I'll probably do another video talking about that. And now on kind of the positives of the lessons that I've learned on being in Zim. To be honest, living in Zim for the past year has definitely taught me patience. I don't think I've ever been as patient in my life as I've been since I've come back. You gotta be patient, especially with people. It can simply come down to even going to the bank or going to a restaurant, just simple customer service. Customer service is so bad here, and you have to try your best to not lose your ish. Because once you lose your ish, you're going to start stressing, and it's going to ruin your week or even your month or whatever, and you don't want to get there. So that's what I mean, that it really teaches you patience, and with just things that are going on economically. And yeah, it's definitely taught me patience. It's also taught me to be a fighter. In order to get what you want, or in order to be where you want to be, you have to fight. You have to put in the effort. You have to, work really hard, or even extra hard, compared to a person who's obviously in what we call a diaspora. And I think one big lesson that I've learned is it's hard for you to survive off a 9-to-5 job. For example, if I had this job, but maybe saying in elsewhere, right? Let's just say I had the same job that I have now somewhere else. I would have been fine. I wouldn't have had to think of starting a side business or even having a side business, because I would know that I would have been fine. But I don't want to speak like I don't appreciate. I absolutely appreciate the fact that I have a 9-to-5 job, because not everyone can get a 9-to-5 job, or not even have a 9-to-5 job, or not even have a job at all. So I am so grateful for where I am. and what I'm doing. I really do feel blessed. And I think the last and foremost lesson, sorry, people keep texting me, is I think I've become more mature, and I think that kind of links to being patient and, you know, being a fighter and all of that. This place makes you grow up. I think I have definitely become more mature, and I'm glad I have. But other than that, do I love being home? It's like a love and hate relationship. I love it because I get to be around family, I get to be around my friends that are here, and it's just good to be home because you kind of feel safe and you feel secure. You don't have to worry, oh my god, when is my visa expiring, or, you know, what do I need to go register, blah blah blah, all of this. Less paperwork basically. Even if your passport expires, you know that, girl, I ain't got to travel like the next 5 years, so I'm good. So yeah, I think I love that aspect of it, of being home, and getting to do certain things that I wasn't able to do when I was in China or England or whatever. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gives you details and get to see what my experience has been of living in Zimbabwe for this past year. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and hope to see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to subscribe.